Hello, Shemayne. How are you?
I'm well, thank you. How are you?
I'm doing well. Thanks for asking. So, every story has a journey. So let's start off with your upbringing. Tell me, what was your upbringing like?
I grew up in Queens. I grew up in Queens, New York, and then I moved to Northern New Jersey in my early teens. And then I grew up in the suburban part of Bergen County, went to high school there, and then moved on to college. And then I had a pretty interesting journey as far as college is concerned. I worked full-time and went to college at night. And then I worked in the pharmaceutical industry. And then partly through working when the pharmaceutical industries were starting to lay people off, I was part of those layoffs. And then I turned into part-time. Going to school full-time at night, I started to go full-time during the day. So that was a sweet transition. And then I started a company in the early 90s. I had a corporate gift-giving warehouse, and I sold it about 9 years after for, a decent profit. And at the same time, I started to get back into athletics, back into track and field. I was being recruited to coach. I was getting back into running personally after taking time off from track and field, simply because I was starting to gain, a lot of weight. And then because of my business, I was just totally focused on my career. And then at some point, I was just saying something's got to give. So everything kind of came together, I guess, as far as my personal well-being and then wanting to, continue coaching youth. So I sold my business, started coaching at a local high school as an assistant coach. And then a few months later, I was being recruited by the school that I currently work for because I was always training with the young girls that actually went to the local high schools. And they were like, we really need a coach. Please come coach with us. And I was perfectly happy with coaching where I was. But I was, my mom was like, listen, why don't you just go interview? It can't hurt. Just go and interview. Since they were recruiting you, just go. So I went for the interview at this all-girls private high school. I ended up getting the position as head track and field, as the head coach. And then a year later, since I was just coaching, they asked if I wanted to teach at the school. And I was like, I don't have a teaching degree. I'm a business major. And they were like, it doesn't matter. We really like what you're doing. We really love for you to interview for a phys ed position that's going to open up. And that kind of fit, my personality and my lifestyle. So I was like, yeah, sure. So, after them again prompting me to come on, interview, I was hesitant, but I went for it, and then I ended up getting the job as a phys ed teacher 2 years, after coaching, and the rest is history. So I had been coaching at the school for 17 years, teaching for 15, and I left coaching late 2016 to assume a position at MetLifeStadium where I was working in professional sports. So I work with the Giants and the Jets and, all the concerts that are being held at the stadium. And the reason why I got that is during my graduate work, I went back to grad school to study sports management. And a lot of my research was done at the stadium. And after I graduated, the vice president of the stadium asked if I wanted to join his department, which was in safety services, because a lot of my research was done on terrorism in a sports setting. It was a lot different. It was pretty untraditional because a lot of people go the traditional route. Everybody wants to get into being a sports agent or, just working, in some element of the sports industry, and it's really hard to get into that. But I went the untraditional route, and since, terrorism is, clearly on the rise in the sports setting, I really wanted to research the dynamics between all branches of law enforcement that work within a stadium setting. So MetLife Stadium happened to be, where I was doing a lot of research, and like I said, a few weeks after graduating, I was offered the position to work with the vice president. So I do that in addition to teaching physical education at the school where I started to coach. So that's where my journey ended. And I've always been into coaching. I still coach athletes on the private side. I do individual, and of course I have my personal training business. I have a home gym as well where I can practice my craft and I can continue to, stay in shape for track and field. And so here I am.
Oh, wow. That's certainly awesome. You definitely have done a lot. I wanted to ask you, as far as your track and field career is concerned, growing up, were you involved in any type of activities, whether it be with running or any type of sports with the New York City or maybe with the Northern New Jersey Parks and Recreation departments?
when I was in high school, I didn't do anything, youth-wise, because I know they had, like, in New York it was the Adams, but I wasn't, involved in that because at that point I was already in New Jersey, and I remember always, like, racing, out in the, outside with the boys, and everyone would say, oh, my God, you're, like, so fast, and I didn't really even think anything of it, but I was always coined as the fastest girl, like, in the school or in my class, and then I remember running around in high school, and one of the football coaches, at the time had seen me, and he was like, I hope you're coming out for the track team. And I was just like, I was thinking about it, because I was really into, like, cheerleading and gymnastics. So I really wasn't really thinking too much about track and field until I liked to run, but I didn't really think of it as, like, something I would want to do as a sport. And then I started running around. I took him up on his, up on his offer, and I started running for the track team, and I pretty much was pretty successful right out the gate, up until you get, with the big dogs, and the reality starts to, like, set in. So I was always pretty humble when people tell me I was fast, and I would be like, yeah, for somebody that was so young, I knew I was fast in my school and in my setting, but I had friends that were, like, living in other towns that I knew were very good in track and field, and I knew that they would give me a run for my money, for lack of a better word. So I was pretty, humble, in that respect, so I never really thought that I was going to be, like, some superstar, when I was in high school. I was definitely good, and I had my name was in the paper and all of that, but once I started getting, like, to the state, I always made it to the state meet, but, I never really made it, like, to the finals or anything like that. I didn't really start to develop my skills, really, until I got, like, older.
Okay, interesting. So now let's talk about your Masters Track and Field careers. Tell me, how did you come up across Masters Track and Field?
Okay, so I had a friend who, I competed against her when we went to different high schools, so we were always, rivals, friendly rivals. But we were actually, friends all through our, college and, out of college life. And we both got to the point where we were starting to, put on weight. And we were always, like, athletic looking, built, fit. And then when the weight started coming on, it was like, I don't know about her, but I was definitely in denial. And I think that I knew that every time I would, put on a pair of pants and they were too small, I would just go to the store and get a bigger pair. So I was like, all right, I was so consumed with, with my career, I wasn't really thinking about how it looked. But it got to the point where I was just, like, feeling really, like, never sick, but I was just always tired, could never stay awake past 8 o'clock. And then I was just saying to myself, you know what, something's got to give. So at that point, she had started, she had joined a track program, a track club. And she was really excited, telling me all about it, and I had no interest whatsoever. I was like, yeah. And I wasn't really ever a gym person. So, but finally one day I was just like, you know what, maybe I'll just go out, and hang out with the team just to get workouts in, because I knew I would love that, because I was used to running, from back in the day, running track workouts. And I said, you know what, let me just do that. But I made it very clear to the club that I was not trying to compete. I only wanted to work out with them. And they were like, yeah, sure, no problem. So I was working out for a few months with them, and then we were rolling up into the indoor competition season. And I would always go to the meets to support. And there was one particular meet where somebody didn't show up for whatever reason. They had a family emergency, and they were down a relay person. So they were like, come on, can you just run this relay for us, blah, blah, blah. And I didn't have I had on workout clothes, but I didn't have any spikes, I didn't have any flats, anything. So there happened to be a store inside the Armory, which is the New Balance Track and Field Center. And so I ended up buying some spikes right then and there, and I got on the relay. And I ran, I don't even remember what leg I ran, but I got the bug right then and there, and that's all she wrote. I became obsessed with training, like the goal, like I got the competitive bug. And that's back in 1994. So I was like, I haven't stopped since. I mean, I've taken breaks here and there, like off a season or something, but never anything long term. And so I've gone through a couple of. I don't run for that club anymore. It's not even in existence. But I ran for Central Park Track Club for a while. I ran unattached forever, and then Now I'm with a club that's amazing. It's called Southwest Sprinters, and they're headquartered out of Houston, Texas, with some excellent board members who are also wonderful, people and awesome athletes who come from, we pretty much all come from a semi, professional running background, but, we have a lot of people that have, dipped in the Olympic trials, who've had opportunities to run. It's. Let me just tell you this: Masters Track is extremely, extremely competitive, and even more competitive when you start to race abroad, because those folks in Europe are no joke. But the United States, I have to say, definitely gives them a run for their money, and we continue to always lead in the medal count whenever we travel, abroad, for our world championships. So for anybody that's interested in joining or becoming part of the U.S. Masters Track meet, I would never encourage someone not to do it, but I would also want to make it really clear that this is not, some kind of like recreation, don't take it seriously kind of thing. People are very, very competitive. And I'm not saying that you have to be that serious to join, but just know if you want to go to the next level, you really have to put the work in to at least make it to a finals, at the international level. But it is a lot of fun. I've met so many wonderful people that I've now have formed amazing friendships with from all over the world. I can say that I probably have at least one friend in at least 6 different countries. So it's a great experience, and if you love to run, I would strongly encourage people to investigate what's at their local level, as far as where they live, find out, how they can get involved in, at the master's level, and don't underestimate, what it can offer, because it definitely can offer a lot more than just some medals.
Sounds like it's been a rewarding experience in your life, and I know health and fitness is something that's also been very rewarding in your life. Can you tell me about the importance of health and fitness in minority communities?
Oh, gosh. It's important in any community, frankly. I just think that if people, I've heard so many stories about people that have been on like medication, and it doesn't even matter how old. They could be 18, they could be 25, they could be 40, they could be 50. They're taking a plethora of medication for X, Y, and Z, and when they got involved in some kind of physical activity, they were either weaned off the medication, or the medication was limited, or they didn't have to take as much of it, or it reduced their chances of assuming an inherited disease that probably could, that runs in their family, or it's genetic, or they're genetically predisposed. I just feel that, especially, in the minority communities, they should, partake in some kind of physical activity, because, again, we have heart disease, we have high blood pressure, we have obesity, we have diabetes, we have arthritis, we have osteoporosis. I mean, you just hear about so many illnesses. You watch television, it's every other commercial. It's like, take this for that, take that for this, but then you run the risk of X, Y, and Z. And I'm like saying to myself, why don't people just like work out? Why don't they just become proactive at a younger age? Because it's easier if you start when you're young opposed to, when you're older, because you're just more fragile. It takes longer, to see results. Those are just the facts. I'm not just saying that you won't see results. It's just important to know that when you get older, it just takes a little bit longer. I think that for women that, people in their 30s, they have to deal with things. People in their 30s, things start to, your body starts to change. Your muscles are a lot different than when they were 20. Your muscles are a lot different in your 40s than they were in your 30s. And certainly when you hit your 50s and 60s, everything just changes. So I feel if you start early enough, it just slows down the atrophy. It slows down the process of aging. And with aging becomes just natural that people develop whatever they may be predisposed to. But if you just could make that connection with fitness and or exercise, that you might only have to go to the doctor, once a year, or you might go to the doctor and say, hey, you know what, I thought you were on the track for getting diabetes, but I think that you look like you're in the clear now. Or you might not have to take that high blood pressure medication anymore. Or we might be able to reduce the dosage for you. And for whatever reason, people just are not. I think it's getting better. I really do. I'm on social media all the time, just looking at all these people that are, engaging in some kind of, healthy lifestyle. So I definitely think that people are starting to catch on, but there are people that are not. And people think that they have to join a gym. People think they have to have all these fancy equipment. And there's so many things that you could do outside when the weather is nice. There's so many things that you could do in the comfort of your own home. You can create a small area, small space where it's just totally dedicated to some kind of activities. And it's easy enough to figure these things out. It's really not that difficult. So I really do have a hard time with understanding why people don't engage more in some type of activity.
While we're staying on the topic of engaging in an activity, exercise and food really go hand in hand. And I want to ask you about food deserts. In a lot of our communities across the country, we're seeing more and more food deserts. Are you a part of any type of coalition or any type of organization that's doing something to combat food deserts and to make not just your students, but just more people aware about the importance of a healthy diet?
I do go to a lot of lectures. I try to get to as many workshops as possible that talks about how our food is being manufactured, why processed foods are not, good for you. And I think that I was just having a conversation with someone about autism, and I was like, I can't remember there being so many children diagnosed with that challenge. I feel that the way foods are being manufactured, I feel like, because we are what we eat, and I just feel like the more processed foods equates to more things that are wrong with today's youth. Like, they're overactive, ADHD, they're underactive. I mean, I could have been diagnosed as someone with ADHD because my mother was saying, this kid does just not sit down. I don't understand. She's always going up and down. She can't, da-da-da. And the doctor could have said, oh, yeah, let's give her some ADHD medicine. And he was like, sign her up for something that goes along with her personality. And that's what she did. And it worked. So I just feel like if I can get as much information about, how we can, eat healthier, I do, and I pass it along to, everybody that wants to hear. I'm not the food police. But if people ask me, at least I can give them, they can make decisions based on information that, I'm giving them that I believe to be factual.
Okay, fair enough. So now let's talk about your personal training business that you have called Get Your Sweat On. And I know it's been popular on a lot of the social media platforms. Tell our audience out there what Get Your Sweat On is all about.
So that's really funny. So I had started blogging about all things fitness. Like, I was going to different places where they were offering group classes, going to different gyms, and even different places where they were selling food that was organic, non-GMO. And one day I just started working out, and the videographer at school wanted to film me because I was going to get one of the students to do it. And she was like, student? She was like, I think, I want to do it. She's in charge of that department. So I was like, all right. And I started to like it. And I was just like, wow, this is kind of fun. And I'm not a person that likes to be on camera. I'll be the first one to admit it. I don't like it at all. But what I found was, because I was enjoying what I was doing, I didn't even realize that the camera is on. So I was just working out. I mean, I would have stuff that I was doing. There was a plan for everything that I was doing. It wasn't just like some random stuff. It was stuff that I was actually doing, and she was filming it. And it just kind of like this, all of a sudden it turned into like, oh my God, people are like really liking my stuff, and I just kept at it. So the challenge now is, I do it because I enjoy it. I don't want it to become, oh my God, I have to post something today. Oh my God, this is becoming like, if I don't do it, I don't want it to become a job. I want to continue to have fun with it. So that can be a bit of a challenge right now. So, but like I said, I'm focusing on just the whole, people can learn from what I'm doing with the workouts. People have send me messages. Are you training me? Can you train me? So on and so forth. Then it turned into like, now I built my own home gym. Also, it's a hub for me to, like, everybody, like, if you're a baker, you need a kitchen, you want to practice. If you're a chef, you need a kitchen, you want to practice all these different recipes. So it's a great place for me to practice different moves that I want to be able to offer my clients. I want to maintain my fitness. It's convenient. So that's the whole Get Your Sweat On. It's just a way to get out there and let the universe know what I'm doing. I have a reach. I can reach people in Europe. I can reach people all over this world just by posting some videos up on social media. And hopefully, and so I've been told, I'm motivating a lot of people. So I think I'll stick with it for a while.
Okay, solid. So now where can people find you on social media? And if you have a website, let them know that as well.
Okay, I can be reached at www.getyoursweaton.com, or I'm on Instagram at getyoursweaton.
Well, you heard it from her. She's a coach, trainer, Shemayne Williams. Shemayne, thank you so much for being on the program.
Okay, thank you so much. I enjoyed it.
Hey, everybody. Thank you so much for tuning into the channel. Remember to click like, share, and subscribe. And thank you for watching.